lymph nodes are the main item in our body that is meant to clean our lymph of bacteria, viruses, tumors, cancer cells, and prevent that stuff from rejoining circulation. The lymph nodes also produce the lymphocytes. That's a specific type of white blood cell that is housed inside of those lymph nodes. So it's kind of like the garden at the shack. You have to be acceptable to be passed through that lymph node to continue on to the next area.
So if you got cancer and they also remove your lymph nodes, then what happens? Where does that fluid go?
It may not get cleaned through that particular station.
It still flows back into the circulation?
It may. If you've got like lymph vessels that have been removed, then it may actually have swelling in that area because you can't get not only the lymph back, but it can't be cleaned. If they're like women who have breast cancer surgery, they'll often take the lymph nodes in the arm, then that arm may swell.
Okay.
Yeah. Lymph nodes are actually scattered along 3 main locations in your body. They are in your neck area called the cervical region. When people are sick, you might often hear them say, my glands are hurting or my hands are swollen. These are not glands. So these are actually little tiny inch-long lymph nodes. They're organs, and their job is to help clean the lymph that's coming from the right and left sides of your head. So if you've ever had swollen lymph nodes in your neck, you know how painful that can be. They can be around the back of your neck as well, and that means that there's some kind of infection, bacteria, virus, or something that's coming from your head back down to your heart. So they're cleaning, they're doing their job.
Why can't you push them and make them go down? I can actually make it go down. Oh yeah.
I guess I don't push that hard.
I'd be scared to squeeze something out of them.
Oh, I know.
You have them in your stomach?
You have them in your stomach?
Yeah, around the abdominal.
Yeah, they're up your aorta, so they're kind of behind your stomach. Yeah. Axillary is where?
Armpit.
Armpit, and then inguinal is down here around your groin area. And going back to that previous picture, you can see they are scattered along the main vessels of our bodies. So along the aorta, of course around the neck, the armpit, and the leg. So we have these stations, you might say, where the lymph has to pass through and be cleansed before it gets back to the heart.
There's a lot of blood vessels around that aorta area where if somebody had pancreatic cancer, liver cancer, stomach cancer, I would think that would probably be the case as to why they can't really treat it a whole lot.
Well, not only that, but you're right, you've got all these blood vessels and you can't live without a few of those organs, so yes, dangerous zone in there. Just kind of a little look at the lymph nodes here. You can see the lymphocytes are a major population of those lymph nodes. And I want to share with you how the lymph actually flows in and out of those lymph nodes. Notice one thing, there are afferent vessels carrying lymph into the lymph node. There are efferent vessels carrying lymph away from the lymph node or out. Take a moment and count. How many afferents coming in?
2.
4 coming in. How many going out? Think of this like a toll road. You know how toll roads have a lot of lanes coming in, and then they narrow down and have a few lanes going out? What does that create for traffic?
Block.
Bottleneck, right? So everybody can get into the toll road, but then you've got only a few lanes coming out, so it's a bottleneck. It's going to slow down the flow. That's what's going on here. We're making it easy for the lymph to get in. By only having a few lanes out, we're making it difficult to flow out. That gives it time for the lymph node to clean up that lymph and remove anything before we're sending out what's supposed to be cleaned up lymph. Inside here, you'll notice that we've divided this thing into compartments. These compartments are separate from one another, so you can actually house an infection in one single compartment. Great idea, right? That way we don't infect the entire lymph node, we only infect one compartment of the lymph node. You've probably heard of this word before, trabecula. We've talked about it back in the spongy bone tissue, and those are the little bony bars that provide strength in spongy bone. Not the same thing here, but rather it's still that same concept of this mesh networking. It does divide up this lymph node into separate compartments. Alright, so the good thing about lymph nodes, they can clean up the lymph. What is the bad thing about the way the lymph nodes work?
Is there anything bad? We're alive.
There is something bad.
Not everything can be clean.
Not everything can be cleaned, exactly. So the goal here is, of course, to get that lymph cleaned up before that lymph gets back into the heart and rejoins circulation. If you have a massive bacterial infection, viral infection, or God forbid a cancerous, event, these types of things can overwhelm the lymph nodes, and the lymph nodes are not going to be able to handle everything that's sent out them. So what may be sent out through the efferent vessel may in fact contain bacteria, viruses, cancer cells, or even debris. So they can be overwhelmed. They too can become sites of lymph cancer. So this can become a secondary site that we call lymphoma. So that's the real concern about a cancerous lymph node. It can send through cancer cells and whatnot that can rejoin circulation. What if you put cancer cells in circulation?
Cancer spreads.
Cancer spreads, right. So if these things become cancerous, then they themselves can also spread cancer, or they can just let the cancer pass through. Cancerous lymph nodes are not painful. They're swollen, but they're not painful. Boy, that's dangerous, isn't it? You may just think you've got a cold and nothing's wrong. But that's the scary thing about cancerous lymph nodes. They are in fact not very painful. Swollen, yes, but not painful. All right. You'll notice over on page, 69, I've listed for you several types of lymphoid organs. These organs may have some white blood cells, like T lymphocytes or B lymphocytes. We call them T cells and B cells for short. We also may have macrophages in those lymphoid organs. What do macrophages do? Eat, yeah. So we're looking at types of cells here that can help clean up this lymph before it returns back to the heart. But that only goes if we're dealing with lymph nodes. The first of those organs listed there is the spleen. This is the only time in this course we'll discuss the spleen. You can live without the spleen because most of the activities can actually be taken over by which organs? Liver, yeah. So the spleen is one of those few organs we can actually completely do without. The spleen is also cleaning. It's not cleaning lymph, however, it's cleaning blood. It's cleaning bacteria and viruses and other items from our blood. So the spleen and the lymph nodes have something in common. They're both cleaning something, but the lymph nodes are the only organs that clean our lymph. Spleen cleans the blood.
So for proliferation of phagocytes?
Phagocytes or lymphocytes, either one. So this organ, like most lymphoid organs, is a home to white blood cells. Part of that cleaning process involves eating those, foreign objects. So, proliferation of white blood cells or phagocytes, lymphocytes, either one. The next blank there, this one is a storage site for the breakdown of, any ideas?
Blood.
Sugar? Protein?
Red blood cells. Yeah, it's a storage site for the breakdown of red blood cell products. You might have heard of people's spleens hemorrhaging and rupturing, and that's because the spleen actually is what we call a blood reservoir. It actually does store those products of blood, so in case you need extra blood in circulation rather quickly, the spleen can produce those into circulation without having to get your bone marrow immediately involved. How long does it take for a red blood cell to be formed anyway?
2 weeks.
2 weeks, 15 days. So if you don't have 15 days to wait, maybe you have 5 minutes to wait, this is where the spleen comes into play. It can actually produce those red blood cells in the circulation rather quickly, rather than for us having to wait for that bone marrow to start their production. Alright, so spleen, thymus we've seen before. Thymus produces what hormone?
Thymine.
Thymosin. Thymosin is produced there. Thymosin programs white blood cells, specifically called T lymphocytes or T cells, T cell comes from T for thymus. What portion of your lifetime does this mainly occur?
Development,
Adolescent.
childhood development.
Good. Childhood development years. By the time you're an adolescent or older, the thymus gland has done its job and it begins to shrivel or atrophy as you age. We're going to actually talk about the tonsils again later on, so I'll just briefly mention them to you here. We do have 3 sets of tonsils. They're showing you on this picture around the mouth area. Looks like you've got the mumps or something. But nonetheless, they're in our oral cavity, back at the back of the throat area. And the job of these tonsils is to remove any foreign debris entering the mouth or oral cavity. So bacteria, viruses, things like that come into your mouth should be trapped by those tonsils and removed before they go where?
The bloodstream.
Lungs. Lungs. Yeah. Lungs. Because the digestive system has acid that'll pretty much get rid of anything, but the respiratory system is what we're trying to avoid all this stuff heading down into. So we're looking for a kind of a preventive guard shack, you might say, in the oral cavity to stop those types of things from entering into the rest of our system. One you might not have heard of before is called a Peyer's patch, and they're located in the intestines. You can see scattered here among the small intestines. They are also patches of lymphoid tissue, and they're also guard shacks. They're removing